All right, welcome on to another Real 2K recap. All 30 teams in action tonight. It's the penultimate night of games before the All-Star break. A couple highlights. Jamal Murray set his career high with 55 points. Three other players logged 40-point games. And then Luka Doncic's second game as an LA Laker. We're going to break it all down, all 30 teams. Let's get to it with the Indiana Pacers, who beat the Wizards in overtime, 134 to 130. A lot of fat stat lines in this one. The Pacers were playing against the worst team in the league. Notably, Obi Toppin set his season high of 31 points, tied his career high with 6 threes. He's not exactly known as a shooter. Benedict Mathurin also chipped in 28 points. I probably got to get the overall ratings of those two guys up. That's something I'll focus on during the All-Star break. The Washington Wizards, Alex Sarr returned, and although he was as inefficient as ever with 9 points on 3 of 13 shooting. And Jordan Poole, one of those big 40-point games, he had 42 points and surprisingly efficient, 15 of 29 from the field, hit 6 threes to keep the Wizards competitive. It did go to overtime. Silver linings for them. The Orlando Magic, they beat the shorthanded Charlotte Hornets 102 to 86. Paolo Banchero had 24 points on 8 of 20 shooting. Not his best game, but, baby steps for the former All-Star. And then LaMelo Ball, as mentioned, the Hornets were shorthanded. Former All-Star, he is out. He had an ankle injury in the last one. So Elfrid Payton got the start. He is on a hardship 10-day contract. He had 4 points, 7 assists in 32 minutes. Yusuf Nurkic made his debut. Started for the Hornets as Musa Diabate. He was also sidelined with the eye injury he suffered in the last game. Nurkic had 9 points, 8 rebounds in 16 minutes. And Mark Williams has yet to take the court, and we haven't heard anything about his health status since he came back from the trade rescindment. He has yet to play. So I would, as much as they were crying sour grapes, the Hornets are like protesting the trade. The fact that Mark Williams hasn't played probably means that whatever the Lakers found in the physical is probably legit. And I can't showcase him here because 2K has to add him, but Damian Bog, I think that's how you say his name, Bog, B-A-U-G-H. He signed a two-way deal. He was previously with the South Bay Lakers or the Magic's affiliate, one of those two. I think he played for the Magic last year, and then he was with the South Bay Lakers this year. He had 16 points in his debut with the team, so look for him to get added. He is a two-guard, I believe. Obviously, the Hornets are shellacked with their backcourt depth at the present moment. Let's move along to the Boston Celtics, who beat the San Antonio Spurs 116 to 103. Jason Tatum, 32 points, 14 rebounds, 7 assists, one of his better games of late. Kristaps Porzingis had 29 points. Derek White, 19 points, 9 assists, as Drew Holiday actually should be sidelined as he has not played in like 3 or 4 games. So let me just make that adjustment live. But then heading over to the San Antonio Spurs, De'Aaron Fox, he had 23 points. Victor Wembanyama, 17 points, 13 rebounds. And then Stephon Castle had 20 points off the bench. So the De'Aaron Fox trade hasn't made really much of a dent in San Antonio's play-in chances. I think they are below 500 since Fox joined the team. But Stephon Castle continues to take major strides this year. Probably going to be all-rookie first team, I would imagine. Solid future for the 19-year-old. Let's head on back to the Cleveland Cavaliers, who dispatched the Toronto Raptors 131 to 108. And the most notable development here was DeAndre Hunter came off the bench. He had 18 points in 27 minutes. Max Strus got the start at small forward. And I didn't read much into, I didn't get a chance to watch the game. Obviously 15 games happened. All 30 teams were in action, so I didn't get to go too in-depth in any one particular area. But I think that Hunter just coming off the bench is meant to help with the rotation, meaning Dean Wade is still out at behind Evan Mobley, and obviously Tristan Thompson's not really a rotation big, so usually Evan Mobley is the backup center for Jarrett Allen, and if DeAndre Hunter is starting next to Evan Mobley, it kind of messes with who's the backup for. So I think that's probably why they made that change, and it's worth noting that Sam Merrill had an increased role in this one as well. He had 16 points off the bench as he was more or less filling in for, Strus getting promoted to the starting lineup. So I think it's just better balance overall for the Cavaliers in the meantime, at least until guys like Okoro and Wade come back. But then speaking of people who did come back, for the Raptors, R.J. Barrett, he returned after missing a couple games. He had 27 points. Brandon Ingram, if you didn't see it yesterday, he signed a 3-year extension with the team for $120 million. I'm not even sure if what the plan is going to be for RJ Barrett because they share the same position, and RJ Barrett isn't the greatest 3-point shooter or anything. So are they going to start him at the 2 and put Grady Dick on the bench, or do they need Dick spacing in the starting unit? We're going to see, but Ingram probably not going to make his debut until sometime in March, towards the tail end of the season. Heading on over to the New York Knicks, they beat the Hawks in overtime. This is a game I definitely want to rewatch. 149 to 148 in overtime. Massive stat lines in this one. Karl Towns, 44 points, 10 rebounds, his second consecutive 40-burger. Jalen Brunson, he had a bounce back, had only 8 points in the last one, but then dropped 36 in this one with 8 assists. Obviously, the Trae Young matchup is, everybody in New York hates Trae Young, and Brunson certainly doesn't hate him because he loves to face off against him and have an easy night on the offensive end. But Precious Achiuwa, he set not his career high, but his season high with 26 points. His career high is 27, but normally you don't see Precious going for that many points. As far as the Hawks, they had a lot of it was a pretty balanced scoring effort for them. Trae Young had 38 points, 19 assists to match Brunson. To match Brunson in the points, but then the assists, that just, was really what kept them competitive with the Knicks. George Niang had 21 points. He's not even in their top 10 players in terms of rating. Karis LeVert, 20 points, 10 rebounds, 7 assists. He's going to be getting an extended role as Larry Nance Jr. and Vit Krejci. They left the last games. They left their last game with injury, and both are going to be sidelined for at least a month, it sounds like. Larry Nance Jr. is probably out for the next 6 weeks. He's going to be, well, not probably, he is out for the next 6 weeks. He'll be reevaluated after 6 weeks. So that sounds like he might be out for the rest of the regular season because there's only about 8 weeks left in the season and he's getting reevaluated. So Larry Nance is perennially injured, in and out of the lineup frequently. Kind of bummer for him as he had been pretty productive this season. And then Vit Krejci, he's going to be reevaluated in 3 or 4 weeks also. So this is what's going to lead to a larger role for LeVert as they need another playmaker on the bench. As Kobe Buffkin already out for the season, Jalen Johnson also out for the season. And they really don't have much else besides Trae Young. I'm a little surprised that Dyson Daniels doesn't get more playmaking chops. Or not, playmaking opportunity, I should say. But I guess they feel like they need him defensively next to Trae. They can't really afford to go without him. Probably going to have an expanded role for Terrence Mann as well. Zachary Risache had 16 points in this one. Daniels, for what it's worth, had 23. And then Onyeka Okongwu had a pretty solid game, 21 points, 14 rebounds, although he was no match for Karl Anthony Towns on the other end. The Brooklyn Nets, they beat the 76ers 100-96 in the battle for the 11th seed. The Nets are not even trying to win games, and they are outpacing the 76ers this season. D'Angelo Russell had 22 points in this one, and then Trendon Watford, who I need to do his rating. He's one of the more unique players in the NBA. He had 18 points in this one. Realistically, his rating should be somewhere in the 75 to 77 range, so I got to get to that. But then the 76ers, who I did a full mini breakdown of them in my last Real 2K recap. Paul George, he had 2 points in this one on 1 of 7 shooting in 37 minutes, despite no Joel Embiid or Tyrese Maxey in this one. So they absolutely needed him to step up, and he just did not. Only 7 shots in 37 minutes for a max player is crazy. Over his last 5 games, Paul George is averaging 10 points per game in 33 minutes. So he is crashing hard, man. Quentin Grimes got his first career start as a Sixer. He had a season-high 30 points, tied his career high with 9 rebounds, played 36 minutes, so he'll probably stick in the starting lineup. Justin Edwards, who had started 9 previous games, he came off the bench. He had 13 points and 31 minutes in this one. He's on a minimum contract and scored more than max contract Paul George did. And worth noting that Jared Butler and Yabusele got the start in this one for the aforementioned missing starting star players for the Sixers. And man, they dropped to 12th. It might be time to pull the plug on this one. 12th place after going into the All-Star break is crazy for them. Going over to the OKC Thunder, they beat the Heat 115-101. Shea had 32 points and 9 assists. Chet was a DNP in this one, so Aaron Wiggins got another start. He had 11 points. The Miami Heat, Bam had 27 points, 15 rebounds. He's been playing a lot better of late. Tyler Hero was back in the lineup after missing last game. He had 14 points. Wiggins and Mitchell chipped in 14 points each as well, but just not enough offense against the best defensive team in the NBA. The Sacramento Kings beat the New Orleans Pelicans 119-111. Domantas Sabonis 16-15. DeRozan 24 points, 6 assists. Levine had 23, and then Keon Ellis chipped in 27 points off the bench against the second worst defensive team in the NBA, the New Orleans Pelicans. Oh, and before we move on, some news. Markelle Fultz signed a contract with the Kings. The former number 1 pick of the 2017 draft is back in the NBA. He had gone unsigned. He was recovering from an injury, the details of which didn't really get disclosed, but that was essentially something that had leaked as like the reason why he went unsigned. It was kind of surprising to a lot of people that nobody offered him like a camp contract or anything like that. So the Kings have needed a point guard since trading De'Aaron Fox, as Malik Monk is more of a natural 2-guard. Devin Carter is a rookie. So Markelle Fultz is going to get an opportunity down the stretch for a playoff hopeful team. And I mean, Fultz realistically has always been like a poor man's De'Aaron Fox. So this is really a great fit for what I assume is a minimum contract. And then the Pelicans, Zion had a big game, 33 points, 9 rebounds, 7 assists. A little bit of news, Herb Jones officially announced as out for the season as he had shoulder surgery. So hopefully a speedy recovery to him next season. The Milwaukee Bucks, they beat the Minnesota Timberwolves 103-101 despite the absence of Giannis Antetokounmpo and Dame Lillard. Stole a game off the T-Wolves. Kyle Kuzma led them in scoring with 19 points and 13 rebounds. Ryan Rollins got the start for Dame at 4 points on 2 of 12 shooting, 27 minutes. But Kevin Porter Jr. Gave them a little bit of offensive punch. He had 11 points, 5 assists in 21 minutes, his most meaningful minutes with the team so far. And then Gary Trent also chipped in 21 points off the bench to kind of replace the scoring punch of Dame. And the Wolves, they just shit the bed on this one. They shot 38% from the field, 23% from 3, and that's highlighted most by Anthony Edwards. 28 points, shot 10 of 33 from the field, 4 for 17 on threes. Half of his shots are threes, and you know everybody knows him for the explosive dunks and everything. He's got to do a better job of attacking the rim consistently, especially since Julius Randle is sidelined right now, so he doesn't. Randle's not clogging the paint or anything. He should have the spacing necessary with Naz Reid out there to kind of space the floor. Reid, for what it's worth, did have 22 points and 13 rebounds, and Gobert even chipped in 20 points and 14 rebounds. I imagine a lot of those were like offensive rebounds from as the Wolves were, brick city all night. The Detroit Pistons, they beat the Chicago Bulls again, 128-110. Cade Cunningham had 29 points and 7 assists. And the Bulls, there's not much you can really say about them. At least they didn't get blown out by 40 this time. Ayo Dosunmu had 23 points in this one to lead them. Vucevic had 21 and 14, and then Kobe White was 2 for 12. And Matas Buzelis had his 4th or 5th consecutive start with the team. He's been playing a lot better. I did detail his rating. I boosted his overall rating a point in the last video, so if you want to know what I changed, feel free to check that out. The Houston Rockets beat the Phoenix Suns 119 to 111. Still without Fred VanVleet, the Rockets are, but Amen Thompson had 18 points and 11 assists. Tari Eason continues to start in the absence of both VanVleet and Jabari Smith Jr. Jabari Smith Jr. Will be back after the All-Star break. But Eason had 25 points. Şengün added 17, 13, and 5. Jalen Green had 22 points. Dylan Brooks had 18. Just a solid, balanced performance for the team. And then the Phoenix Suns, not quite a balanced performance. KD had 37 points and 9 assists. And then the next guy on the team was Bol Bol, who had 15 points. In case you missed it, this is his second consecutive start. He started it in the last game at power forward. They moved Ryan Dunn to the bench in the last one. And worth noting, Bradley Beal's been out for like 3 or 4 games. Devin Booker and Grayson Allen also missed this one. So Royce O'Neal had to be the starting 2 guard in this one. So KD did not have enough help to get it done against Houston. And then going over to the Utah Jazz, they beat the LA Lakers 131 to 119 after dropping the last one. Lauri Markkanen had one of his better games, 32 points and 6 threes. Walker Kessler, perhaps possibly showcasing himself for the Lakers in the offseason since they didn't get Mark Williams. 16 points and 6 blocks. I would maybe consider meeting the asking price that Danny Ainge has, even if it is something like 3 first-rounders, because I think he's more of what they need than Mark Williams. Mark Williams is more of an offensive player. They need somebody on that defensive line, given the age of LeBron, and Luke is obviously not the greatest defensive player in the world either, a bit slow of foot. And Keontae George, 20 points, 10 assists off the bench, also one of his better games. Again, mentioning that the Lakers aren't very good defensively at the present moment. But Luka Doncic, he's on a minutes restriction, which I guess I wasn't fully aware of, but it makes sense. He only played 23 minutes in this one, but he had 16 points, 4 rebounds, 4 assists. Medium efficiency, actually below average efficiency, I would say, at least for him. 6 of 13 from the field, 3 for 8 from 3, but then only 1 of 5 from the free throw line. That is... Luka occasionally gets the yips on free throws. Not the greatest free throw shooter for his career. Where the heck is that? Yeah, 79% last year, but then he's typically hovered around 74, like low 70s, 75% for his career. So a similar problem that like LeBron has had, actually. But yeah, LeBron, for what it's worth, 18 points, 6 rebounds, 7 assists. He didn't score enough to keep pace with Utah in this one. Austin Reeves also had a down game, 15 points. He did have 11 assists, but he shot 4 of 15 from the field. And then Jackson Hayes, he had 4 points in 7 minutes left of the game with a facial contusion. Hopefully he doesn't have to miss any time, as the Lakers otherwise are kind of in a similar spot to the Dallas Mavericks. They don't have a ton of center depth. Alex Len, for what it's worth, made his debut with the team. He had 4 points, 7 rebounds, played 21 minutes, probably a little more than he expected to with the Hayes injury. And then Dalton Knecht made his, can we call it a debut or a re-debut? Returned to the Lakers and had 10 points. And then the Denver Nuggets. Big game for them. They beat the Blazers 132 to 121. Jamal Murray, as we mentioned at the start, 55 points, 20 of 36 from the field, 7 threes. It set his new career high in scoring. Nikola Jokic, 26 points, 15 rebounds, 10 assists, a triple-double. Christian Braun had 21 points, 10 rebounds, 6 assists. Pretty well-balanced game for him. And then Zeke Naji got the start in this one. They were without Michael Porter Jr. He had 16 points and 37 minutes. Naji been in the doghouse all year. I didn't check, but that's probably his season high in points. And they only got 3 points, the Nuggets did, from their entire bench. So 129 points accounted for in their starting unit, which is crazy. Jamal Murray was in mid-season form. He had, in 6 games in February, he's averaging 25 points. He was only at 18 points per game in October and November in 14 games during those 2 months. So I boosted his overall rating up to an 88, just accounting for he's been playing a lot better recently. Boosted his offensive consistency back up to an 80. He's still working his way up. As long as he keeps up his current rate, that'll get back to the 90s-ish, probably towards the tail end of the year. And then I boosted up his mid-range ratings. That was where he was mainly struggling from. The short mid-range was the close rating, and then the actual mid-range I had dropped down to like a 93. This I had down at like an 82, so I brought that back up 10 points. And then the Portland Trailblazers, they had a little bit of news. DeAndre Ayton is going to miss the next 4 weeks with a calf strain, so they're going to lean a little more heavily on Donovan Clingan, the number 7 pick of the 2024 draft. That honestly might end up being addition by subtraction, and it's worth noting that Clingan is their center of the future. He's only 20 years of age, and obviously they don't want to keep Ayton around really past his contract, which is expiring at the end of next season. Probably getting traded during the summer. But Clingan, just doing a little bit of skinny on him. In 10 starts this year, he had, at least prior to this one, 7 points per game, 10 rebounds per game, 3 blocks, 22 minutes per game, and the Blazers had a 5-5 record, so they've generally not missed Ayton at all when he's been out of the lineup and when Clingan has gotten a chance to play. Clingan does lead the NBA in foul rate, 7.9 fouls per 100 possessions. He's got the number 2 block rate, though, 4.7 blocks per 100, and 8.8 block percentage. And then second in rebound rate. Second in rebound rate, second in offensive rebound rate, 12th in defensive rebound rate. 8 per 100 in offense, 11.7 in defense, and then 19.7 rebounds per 100 possessions in total. But offensively, that's ultimately where he struggles. He's not really a finisher at all. You can see I've got a 70 layup rating on him, 50 close, 45 mid-range. The three-pointer is his highest shooting rating, believe it or not. At the rim, he's 76 of 111 from the field this year, 68.5%. A lot of that basically, finishing dunks and stuff at the rim. But then non-rim twos, which are the close in the mid-range, 4 of 27 from the field, which is good for 14.8%. So that's why his three-point rating is higher. He's 7 of 23, 30% from 3. So he's hit twice as many threes as he has non-rim two-pointers this year, which is crazy. And worth noting that Clingan wasn't even like a three-point shooter or anything like that in college. So this is just something that he's tried to add to his game at the NBA level. He's so overall his breakdown, like the offensive rebounds and the blocks and the foul rate, it reminds me a lot of Mitchell Robinson in his rookie year with the Knicks. Something that season kind of taught me is that block rate versus foul rate, like just because you have an elite block rate doesn't mean that you're an elite shot blocker, because you're still, the ability to play defense without fouling is a big part of defense. It's ultimately what separates somebody like a Hassan Whiteside, who's just trying to block everything, from a Tim Duncan, who's very selective with how he blocks, but when he does block you, it's so clean, he would never get called for fouls and never compromise the defense by hunting for them. So that's something that Clingan needs to work on. Is staying out of foul trouble, especially now that Ayton's not going to be around. If Clingan is going to be playing bigger minutes, he's got to, not rack up as many fouls. But he had a big game in this one, 17 points, had a career high, 20 rebounds. A lot of those were offensive. This is, again, partly why he's got that 70 layup rating. He grabbed a lot of his own misses, kind of Andre Drummond style. But he's just so big that you can't really keep him off the glass. And, sorry, I lost my focus for a second. These videos, man. He had 17 points, 20 rebounds, 3 blocks, and played 31 minutes. So he was able to stay out of foul trouble in this one. And just to finish off the Blazers, Anthony Simons, he had 26 points and 6 assists, but he ended up scoring 29 fewer points than Jamal Murray. So let's head on over to the Dallas Mavericks. They beat the Golden State Warriors 111 to 107. Where am I going? They are without all of their big men, as the big news is Daniel Gafford is going to miss the next 2 weeks with a knee sprain. Derek Lively's out until April, and then Anthony Davis is going to be out for probably the next month. So today's starting front court was Omax Prosper and Kessler Edwards, whichever one is the center. It's kind of up to you to decide. But they ended up pulling out the win against the Warriors. I guess the Warriors are a good team to not have your starting center against because they don't really play a traditional center either. Max Christie had his first career start, had 17 points and hit 2 clutch free throws at the end to ice it. Kyrie Irving, he had 42 points, 0 assists, interestingly enough. I guess he doesn't really have anybody to pass it to. The Mavericks were, or rather the Warriors were double teaming him a lot and kind of forcing him to give it up. And then from there, they would end up swinging it to the next player who was open. So that's essentially why Kyrie had 0 assists in this one. Kessler and Omax, for what it's worth, both had 6 assists each. I should have checked. Maybe that might be the career highs in assists for both of them. Kessler in particular had a pretty all-around game. 4 points, 6 rebounds, 6 assists, 2 steals, 3 blocks. So it sounds like he might have been the center. Omax, he had 6 points and 6 assists in 24 minutes. Kessler played 33, so yeah, I would guess that he was probably the center down the stretch. And then for the Warriors' end, their third game, I believe, with Jimmy Butler. Butler had 21 points, 9 rebounds, 7 assists. Solid all-around game, but he did commit a charge against Kyrie on the final possession for the Warriors. Kyrie also did his best with 25 points, but not a ton of help beyond those guys. Jonathan Kuminga's been out for like the last 6 weeks with his injury. I'm curious to see how he and Butler fit together. My first instinct would be not particularly well. And then Quentin Post returned to the starting lineup, but he's ultimately never going to be in the closing lineup. The closing lineup's usually going to be Draymond Green at center, Butler at the 4, and then I believe Brandon Podziemski was the 2 guard next to Curry with Moses Moody, I believe, as the 3. And then finishing off with the LA Clippers and the Memphis Grizzlies. The Clippers beat the Grizzlies 128-114. Kawhi Leonard had one of his better games of the year, had 25 points, started at power forward in this one. They started Chris Dunn instead of Derek Jones Jr. I wasn't sure if that was due to the matchup against the Grizzlies. The Grizzlies do have a larger front court. James Harden also had 18 points, 10 assists in this one, heading into the All-Star break. And then Ben Simmons did not play in this one, was not active. I don't know if he's still joining the team or if he's still nursing the injury that he was sitting out of games with the Nets for. Obviously, Ben Simmons probably not going to play a ton for this team. And then just finishing off with the Grizzlies, Ja Morant did not play in this one. Luke Kennard got the start. I didn't really have any additional notes. Hope you guys liked this video. That we got to touch a little bit on every single team in the NBA. Let me know what you guys think in the comments. If there's any players or anything that you need me to, or teams that you need me to work on during the All-Star break. I'd like to give deeper focus when there's fewer games being played. I'd like to dive in a little deeper. I did that a little bit with Clingan and the Blazers in this one, and ditto Denver and the Nuggets too. Tomorrow there's only 5 games on the slate before we head into the All-Star break, so maybe I'll be able to do that for one of those games or a couple different games. But let me know what you guys think. Thanks for your support. Hit that like button, subscribe, all that jazz. I'll see you guys later. Peace.